Hi, this is Rob Packard. I'm doing a second video today. I did one live. I wasn't really happy with the visual quality of the picture, so I thought I'd do a little extra for you today. And I thought I would give you how to audit the document control process. And I already did a process turtle diagram last week. I used our remarkable tablet and I showed you how to do that. And I have the link down below in the description. But what I'm trying to show you here or explain to you here is how to audit the document control process and do the best job of that. So if you update your procedure to our new procedure on document control, SYS001, this is how I would go about auditing it. Now, number one, the description of the process. The process really hasn't changed. We're still using the same DCN form. So document change notice form, you're identifying what procedures have changed, what changed in the procedures, why, and then you're having review and approval and a date and effectiveness. So that hasn't changed. It's still the same exact form. So if the process hasn't changed, then why do I need to re-audit this? Well, what we changed is a better way to measure the effectiveness of the process. Another thing that we identified is that you need to have validation of software tools, and a lot of companies don't audit the or don't validate the software tools that they're using for whatever process they have. They have a sort of paper-based process, but it's really a paper process that's being done on a computer. And so when you do that, you need to take extra precautions and you really should validate your tools that you're using. So, number one, I would ask the question, please describe the process if I were auditing somebody. Another thing that you might ask as a follow on question for that process owner is, so I see you recently changed the procedure. What changed? If they can't tell you what changed, they obviously weren't the author of the person or author of the changes. Number two, they didn't do any retraining on it. So what was the point in revising the procedure if nobody knows about the changes? So that's important. A lot of times people say no training is required, but if you made the change, there was a reason for it. So who needs to know? Okay. Step two, what are the inputs? Well, the inputs are where do you find, where do you get the information that says we need to update this procedure? Well, is it a CAPA? That would be a great source. Is it a change? Are we improving the process? It was an area that wasn't working well. So you could always ask the question, not just what are the inputs, but can you give me an example of a couple of cases where you updated the procedures and why? You're not asking them what are the process inputs. You're saying, why did you update the process? It's the same thing, but very different words, and they'll think about it very differently. Step three, you're supposed to say, well, what are the outputs? When you were going through your audit of the general quality management system, any process out there, they all have procedures. Look for one that went through significant changes. Look for one that was related to a CAPA and resulted in procedural changes. Pick those, the ones that went through major changes or had a CAPA associated with them, and those are the ones that you want to sample the DCN for, because that's where there's going to be more substance. I don't want the typo. I changed the revision on the standard that's referenced, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that? You want the one that actually has meat to it in importance. Okay? So sample records that matter. Sample DCNs where a significant change occurred or there was a CAPA related to it. Step four, with what resources? This is where we need to look at the the software tool validation. So you should be applying the IEC TIR or TR 80002-2 standard. It's a 2017 standard, I believe, and it gives you examples in the back. So you could ask the person, do you have any examples of spreadsheets you validated? Good question. When did you validate the software that you're using for? Oh, you didn't. That's an important question. Next thing you might want to ask is, well, do you have a plan for revalidation of any of your software? How do you keep track of when software is updated? How do you do updates? Good questions, because software gets updated all the time and we just say yes. But have we validated it? We think, oh, it's just software on my computer, but it's for a quality system you're using it for. So you really need to validate it. So you need to control that somehow. Where's your master software validation plan? Next, with who? So who's going to do this Who's going to do these document control changes? Who's required to review them? How did you train these people to do reviews? Who knows what part of their are they all supposed to do the same thing? Are they all equally trained on doing document reviews? Or is one person specifically responsible for looking at quality and regulatory impact? Are you going to have that person do a thorough analysis of all the changes to make sure they didn't impact the regulatory compliance? That might be a good thing to do. Next, how done. So this is the procedure, the forms, the list, and then there's actually two lists. There's a DCN list and a master document list. Did you update those lists? A lot of people will revise the procedure, but they'll forget to update the list. I've done it. I'm sure there are other people out there that have made the same mistake. So you need to update those logs. Always look at the logs. Make sure they're being maintained. And last but not least, the metrics. That was the most significant change that we made in our procedure for these changes. We updated the metrics. So what you want to look for is, are the metrics helping us? They're supposed to help us identify with a gradient which procedures are bright red. They need to be, those are very old procedures that need revision. And how are we responding to that? Who's looking at that and using it? And then the ones that are green, we don't need to worry about so much. But is top management looking at that gradient and saying, oh, let's update this one. It's bright red and it needs to be redone. I don't like that process anyway. So those are the things that you should be asking in your audit. Make sure if you have 400 DCNs, how many of those are you going to sample and which ones are you going to sample? In addition, if you have 10 people that are responsible for reviewing and approving procedures, maybe you want to interview multiple people, not just the document control specialist that knows the process inside out, upside down, and backwards. Ask the other people that are responsible for signing on the line. That's really helpful. You might not just have one piece of software. You might also have to worry about backups. These have records associated with the document control process. You're supposed to maintain archived versions of every single procedure, all the previous versions. Where are those kept, and can you show me? Show me the previous version. Show me where the DCN saved. Show me where in your procedure where it says where it's supposed to be saved. Do you have a hyperlink in there? If you're storing it into an electronic location, is that hyperlink defined in the procedure as that's the storage location? Those are the things you want to look for. I hope that helps you audit the document control process. It doesn't need to be a long audit. This isn't a major change, but you want to have an effective audit of it. Just don't ask, do you have a DCN process? Are you following the process? It hadn't changed. What else has changed? And audit that stuff. Spend more time on the things that changed. Spend less time on the things that haven't changed at all. I hope that helps. Bye-bye.